Imagine a Disney fairy tale, a story so iconic it's woven into the fabric of childhoods worldwide, set to dazzle a new generation with a fresh face, stunning visuals, and all the magic you'd expect from the House of Mouse. Now picture it, imploding in a spectacular mess of controversy, empty theaters, and behind-the-scenes drama so intense it makes headlines for all the wrong reasons. That's the wild, unbelievable story of Disney's Snow White remake. And trust me, you're in for a ride. From Rachel Zegler's explosive interviews to Andrew Burnap's sidelined role, a political firestorm that turned a princess movie into a cultural war zone, and whispers of sabotage that shocked Hollywood, this is a disaster like no other. Stick with me until the very end because I'm unpacking every jaw-dropping detail, and you won't believe how it all fell apart. Let's jump right in. The stage was set for something magical. When Disney announced Rachel Zegler as their new Snow White, it felt like a match made in fairy tale heaven. Zegler was a rising star, fresh off her breakout role in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, with a voice that could melt hearts and a charm that screamed Disney princess. The casting was bold, a nod to diversity, and a signal that Disney was ready to reimagine their classics for a modern audience. Fans were buzzing. Some cheered the fresh face, others raised eyebrows, but everyone agreed. Zegler was about to become a household name. Disney saw dollar signs, envisioning a blockbuster they could spin into merchandise, a musical universe, and a franchise of sequels. This was supposed to be a guaranteed hit. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. What should have been a smooth rollout turned chaotic, and it all started with Zegler's voice, not her singing, but her words. During early press for the Snow White remake, Zegler had a chance to win over audiences with the usual PR polish. Smile, praise the legacy, hype the magic. Instead, she went off script, speaking with a candor that was either brave or reckless, depending on who you ask. In one interview that's now etched in infamy, she took aim at the 1937 Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, calling it outdated. She described the prince as a guy who literally stalks her, and made it clear Snow White didn't need him. She's not going to be saved by the prince, Zegler said, almost defiantly. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. It was a modern spin, meant to empower, but it landed like a wrecking ball. To Disney purists, Zegler's words weren't just a critique, they were blasphemy. The 1937 Snow White wasn't just a movie. It was the cornerstone of Disney's empire, the first full-length animated film that proved cartoons could be art. Fans who grew up watching it with wide-eyed wonder felt personally attacked. Social media erupted. Hashtags like #NotMySnowWhite and Boycott Disney trended as fans posted furious rants and memes. Side-by-side clips of the original film and Zegler's comments flooded X, paired with sarcastic captions like, "When you hate the movie you're starring in." YouTube commentators jumped in, accusing Zegler of arrogance and disrespect. Even the son of the original film's supervising director spoke out, saying her remarks showed no respect for Walt Disney's vision. The backlash was swift and brutal. Zegler didn't back down. In another interview, she admitted she'd only watched the original Snow White once and didn't like it. She laughed about how the story didn't make sense to her, joking that it felt irrelevant. In yet another clip, she quipped about getting paid for a role she wasn't thrilled about. Each comment was a spark in a powder keg. Fans felt betrayed, as if Zegler was embarrassed to be Snow White rather than honored. It wasn't just what she said, but how she said it. Her tone carried a dismissiveness, a hint of eye-rolling superiority that rubbed people the wrong way. To many, she seemed less like a young actress excited for a dream role and more like someone who thought she was above the fairy tale she was hired to bring to life. Disney was blindsided. They'd banked on Zegler as the face of a new era, but now their star was torching their legacy. The studio tried to downplay the noise, issuing no public statements and keeping marketing minimal, hoping the internet would move on. But the internet doesn't forget. Zegler kept talking, and each interview added fuel to the fire. When asked about Prince Charming, she scoffed, rolling her eyes and calling romance outdated. To fans, it wasn't just a rejection of the love story. It was a dismissal of the magic and sincerity that made Snow White timeless. The controversy wasn't just about a movie anymore. It was about what Disney stood for and whether Zegler respected it. As the release date neared, the situation spiraled. People started filming themselves in near-empty theaters watching Snow White, posting videos with captions like, "Where is everybody?" The clips went viral, turning empty seats into a symbol of the film's doom. Memes flooded X, mocking Zegler's comments with images of deserted cinemas and tumbleweeds. The hashtag #SnowWhiteFlop trended, and fan accounts accused Zegler of single-handedly tanking the movie. Disney's dream of a magical hit was crumbling, and the premiere in late 2023 only confirmed the worst. The film opened to mediocre box office numbers, not a total disaster, but far from the blockbuster they'd hoped for. Then came the second weekend. Ticket sales plummeted 66% in week 2, a gut punch that screamed rejection. Audiences had spoken, and they weren't showing up. Snow White was shaping up to be one of Disney's biggest live-action flops, with IMDb ratings tanking to historic lows for a princess film. Reviewers slammed the lack of charm, the forced modern twists, and a story that felt disconnected from its roots. The fairy tale that was supposed to enchant was unraveling, and Disney was desperate to stop the bleeding. They pivoted marketing hard, focusing on visuals, costumes, and the dwarfs, anything but Zegler. Trailers barely featured the prince, played by Andrew Burnap, and Zegler herself was quietly sidelined from later press. The studio prayed for a miracle, but the writing was on the enchanted wall. Then came a moment that sealed Zegler's fate in the public eye. In a move that's still debated, she posted a video on social media, sitting alone in an empty theater, popcorn in hand, grinning at the camera. Maybe it was meant to be ironic, a playful jab at the chatter about low attendance. Maybe she thought it'd show she could laugh at herself. But it landed like a lead balloon. The internet exploded, calling it tone-deaf, even smug. Critics said it confirmed she didn't care about the film's failure. Or worse, didn't understand why people were upset. The clip was clipped, memed, and mocked relentlessly, with captions like, "When you ruin a Disney movie and think it's funny." What could have been a moment of humility became proof to many that Zegler was out of touch. The public turned. The press circled, and Zegler, once Hollywood's golden girl, was fighting for her career. But the drama wasn't just about her interviews. Behind the scenes, a quieter but equally explosive conflict was brewing, and it centered on her co-star, Andrew Burnap. Burnap played Jonathan, a newly created character meant to add depth to the remake, possibly even a modern romantic subplot. He was a fresh face, thrilled for his big break. "This is going to change my life," he said after landing the role. And it did, but not in the fairy tale way he'd hoped. From the start, something was off. Burnap was barely visible in promotions. No joint interviews with Zegler, no red carpet moments, no Instagram shoutouts. Fans noticed, and speculation began. Whispers from the set painted a grim picture. Insiders claimed tension between Zegler and Burnap had simmered throughout production. Sources said Zegler made comments about trimming Burnap's screen time, joking that the film should focus solely on Snow White. Some even suggested she saw his role as expendable, a distraction from her character's arc. Whether driven by insecurity, ego, or creative vision, the result was brutal. Burnap's role was slashed. Scenes he'd poured his heart into were cut, and his character, once a key piece of the story, became a shadow. Burnap felt sidelined, his breakout moment reduced to scraps. The frustration was real, and it only grew as the film's failure loomed. By the time Snow White tanked, Burnap's resentment was boiling. Sources close to him said he blamed Zegler for the disaster. She was so obsessed with Snow White that she ignored the ensemble, one insider revealed. He felt thrown under the bus. Burnap had invested everything in Jonathan, only to see his work erased to prop up Zegler's narrative. As box office numbers collapsed, he grew vocal in private, reportedly saying Zegler's comments and attitude doomed the project from the start. Other cast members allegedly shared his unease, feeling Zegler's personality dominated the set. What was supposed to be a collaborative dream turned toxic, with egos clashing and resentment festering. The drama took a darker turn when rumors surfaced that Zegler was trying to sabotage Burnap's career. Industry insiders whispered that she resented his silence during her public backlash. As her image crumbled, she reportedly felt Burnap could have defended her, maybe softened the narrative. Instead, he stayed quiet, letting her face the storm, alone. Some claimed Zegler made snide remarks about him on set, even pushing for more of his scenes to be cut to boost her own screen time. One source alleged she saw Burnap as a threat, worried his character might overshadow hers. It was a strange fear, given the criticism she was already facing, but in Hollywood, perception is everything, and Zegler may have seen him as a scapegoat. Burnap chose the high road, at least publicly. He distanced himself from Snow White, skipping interviews and keeping his social media vague with posts about learning from experiences. Some saw it as a smart move to protect his career. Tying himself to a sinking ship wasn't wise, and Burnap seemed to know it. His silence only fueled speculation of bad blood. Was he dodging drama or nursing real wounds? Either way, the feud became a central narrative in Snow White's fallout. The film wasn't just a flop, it was a battlefield of egos, betrayals, and broken promises. And just when it seemed the drama couldn't get worse, another bombshell hit. Zegler's political views threw gasoline on the fire. In a post tied to the Snow White trailer, she took to X to voice strong support for Palestine, stepping into one of the most divisive issues of our time. Zegler had always been outspoken on social justice, but this was different. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a lightning rod, and her stance sparked a firestorm. Supporters praised her courage, but critics accused her of turning a family film into a political platform. The movie got caught in the crossfire, with fans on both sides of the debate weighing in. Snow White was no longer just a fairy tale. It was a symbol of cultural division. The situation exploded when Zegler's co-star, Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, got dragged into the mess. Gadot, an Israeli actress with a military background, had long been vocal about her support for Israel. Her views were no secret, and they clashed head-on with Zegler's. The tension between them was palpable. Joint appearances were awkward, their body language icy. Zegler's expressions often seemed cold, while Gadot looked tense, avoiding eye contact. Interviews felt like a chess game, with clipped responses and no warmth. Fans noticed the rift, and the media turned it into a headline. 2 stars, 2 opposing views, 1 doomed movie. Things took a chilling turn when Gadot reportedly received threats over Zegler's comments. Some pro-Israeli groups targeted Gadot, blaming her for working with Zegler. Disney had to ramp up security for Gadot at public events. And the situation grew so volatile that many wondered how the two could keep promoting the film together. Behind the scenes, sources said the actresses barely spoke, avoiding each other whenever possible. It wasn't just about politics. It was about their core identities and what they represented. The press, always hungry for drama, fanned the flames, turning their clash into a global story that overshadowed the movie itself. Zegler didn't stop at international politics. In a move that alienated even more fans, she took aim at Trump supporters in a series of X posts. She called them a deep sickness, mocking their values and patriotism. The posts were raw, unfiltered, and polarizing. To some, Zegler was a bold voice for change, unafraid to speak truth to power. To others, she was a Hollywood elite attacking millions of everyday Americans. The backlash was fierce, with fans accusing her of turning Snow White into a political weapon. The film, meant to unite families, had become a lightning rod for America's culture wars, and Zegler was the spark. Disney was drowning in the chaos. They'd poured millions into Snow White, banking on a hit to rival their past remakes. Instead, they got a PR nightmare. The studio tried to steer the conversation back to the film, focusing on the dwarves, the music, anything but the drama. But the media wasn't interested in fairy tales. They wanted the dirt. Press conferences turned into ideological battlegrounds, with reporters grilling Zegler and Godot on their views. The film's small LA premiere, held on a Saturday afternoon with limited press, was a far cry from Disney's usual spectacle. Zegler greeted kids dressed as Snow White, but the magic was gone. The studio was stuck with a star they couldn't control and a movie nobody wanted. The fallout was catastrophic. Snow White's failure didn't just hurt Zegler. It reportedly led Disney to scrap plans for a Tangled remake, a sign they're rethinking their entire live-action strategy. Zegler's once bright future is now clouded. Rumors of lawsuits and a fractured relationship with Disney swirl, and Hollywood's short memory means she faces a steep climb to rebuild her image. Burnap, meanwhile, stays silent, his quiet exit, speaking louder than words. Some say he feels vindicated, having dodged the worst of the storm. Godot, too, has moved on. Her star power intact, but her Snow White experience a bitter memory. Disney, ever the storyteller, is trying to rewrite the narrative, but the scars remain. Let's talk about the bigger picture. Snow White's collapse wasn't just about bad press or empty theaters. It was a clash of expectations, identity, and the power of words. Zegler's vision of a modern Snow White clashed with fans who wanted nostalgia. Her outspokenness, whether brave or reckless, turned a fairy tale into a battleground. Burnap's sidelining showed how egos can fracture a production, while the Zegler-Godot rift highlighted the risks of mixing politics with popcorn entertainment. This wasn't just a movie flop, it was a cultural moment, a warning of what happens when Hollywood underestimates its audience. So where do we land? Was Rachel Zegler treated unfairly? A young star punished for speaking her truth in a world that demands perfection? Or did her actions, her blunt comments, political posts, and alleged feud with Burnap doom Snow White from the start? Should Burnap have spoken up to defend her or the film, or was his silence the smartest play? And what about Disney? Did they mishandle the chaos? Or were they doomed by a star they couldn't rein in? This saga is a cautionary tale of fame, ambition, and the tightrope of public perception. Snow White will be remembered, not for its story, but for the chaos it unleashed. I want to hear from you. Do you think Zegler got a raw deal, or did she bring this on herself? Should Burnap have stepped up, or was he right to stay quiet? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this conversation going. If you loved this deep dive into one of Hollywood's wildest disasters, hit that like button and share this video with anyone who lives for drama. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that pull back the curtain on Tinseltown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one!